Hello, and welcome back to the Donor Centric Approach. This podcast is brought to you by MRP Donor Development, where we keep our donors at the center of everything we do, and by our friends and sponsors at Stellar Web Systems, the nonprofit tech solution. I'm so excited that everyone's here today. As always, I am your host, Orlando Barros. We have a pretty special guest with us today. With us, we have Joelle Fitzmaurice from Catholic Terps. She is the development officer at Catholic Terps. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joelle, but Catholic Terps is the vibrant Catholic campus ministry at the University of Maryland, dedicated to forming students in faith, leadership, and community. How did I do?
That's correct.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing a couple of really cool things. We're going to be talking about why campus ministry is so important for young adults and people seeking a greater impact in their spiritual life. We'll talk about how Catholic Terps is growing, its impact here at the University of Maryland, and the unique challenges of fundraising in campus ministry, which is a little bit different than other nonprofits and other ministries. We're going to be talking about quick tips that nonprofits, especially those focused on evangelization, can strengthen donor engagement. But without further ado, Joelle, welcome. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about Catholic Terps. What is Catholic Terps and what makes it unique?
Yeah, Catholic Terps, or also known as the Catholic Student Center at the University of Maryland, is the campus ministry that is at the University of Maryland underneath the Diocese of the Archdiocese of Washington. So we serve the community of the University of Maryland, and our mission statement is for everyone in the community to be known, loved, and transformed through an encounter with Jesus Christ.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit expand on that a little bit. How does the ministry serve students and the community at large, and what impact has it had?
Yeah, so we serve the community of Maryland in a variety of ways. We have our primary mission to these undergrad students at Maryland, but our ministry extends to alumni, faculty at the University of Maryland, and a big one is grad students as well. We serve them through a full-time chaplain, through the sacraments. We have full-time campus ministers through some spiritual direction and community, purposeful, inviting people to Bible studies and our Wednesday night dinners. We also have lots of service opportunities. So I would say, broadly, we're just a community based in College Park that is very inviting. We also have focused missionaries who run Bible studies. We have about 40 student-led Bible studies right now. Missionaries have Bible studies on top of that. We also prepare people for their lifelong Catholic faith. A lot of people come to us having been cradle Catholics or having never really heard of the Catholic Church before. We have such a diverse community of students and alumni. Maryland has 40,000 students. We're on our way to hopefully reaching every one of those students.
Dude, that is amazing. You mentioned Focus missionaries. For those listeners who are not quite familiar with Focus, if you're not Catholic, Focus stands for Fellowship of Catholic University Students. And those are missionaries who go and serve alongside campus ministers throughout the country. Joelle, tell us a little bit about you and your personal journey. What led you to your role in fundraising and development at Catholic Terps, and why are you so passionate about the mission of campus ministry?
Yeah, I went to college in a little Catholic school in North Carolina, and I had kind of stumbled upon this work study opportunity to work with the alumni office at this Catholic school. And they were really in charge of fundraising for the school. And so I got to kind of have a sneak peek about development in that way. But I was studying business and psychology, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And then I had an internship with Congressman McHenry up here at the Capitol in DC. And I learned so much at his office, just in that professional environment. I kind of learned, through that experience, like what I wanted and then what I did not want. I think I realized my family was very much, my parents work for the church, so they're very much in the nonprofit space. And I really felt like, I wanted to go back to that space and not be a nonprofit. I also felt while I was there working at Congress that I wanted to do some mission after college, and I decided to do Focus, which is what we just talked about. I served at George Washington University in DC. And then when I was in Focus, I really just fell in love with development and fundraising because you have to fundraise your salary when you're a missionary. So that was daunting, but I loved it. I felt like, yeah, I just like loved the process of meeting with donors, like sharing this mission and also just like inviting them into it. And I had so many powerful conversations in the process of fundraising my salary. I still pray for my mission partners who supported me and cherish those conversations we had. And that was kind of before COVID. And then during COVID, got married. So I decided to leave Focus. And I knew I wanted to do development. I wasn't really sure where or how. With Focus as a missionary, you kind of get a taste of it, but you really don't get the formal training. There's a lot more to running a nonprofit development infrastructure and program that you don't experience just in Focus. So I reached out to Petrus Development and Andrew Robinson when I was in Focus, and I said, "Hey, like I'm interested in learning more about development. I don't know if you have any opportunities, but I'd love to learn more." And then I got a job with them after Focus, and I just am so grateful for them. I feel like I got a master's degree in development and fundraising, which is kind of rare to come by. I just learned so much because they're a or a development consulting firm. So they work with such a wide variety of clients, as I know you guys do. And yeah, so from campus, a lot of campus ministries. So I really saw kind of into that and then into that world. And then a lot of other nonprofits, schools, yeah, education, kind of conference. Yeah. And so I got to see some like really big, I would say, titans of fundraising in the Catholic space. And I got to kind of personally witness them. I worked with schools that were just starting their infrastructure programs. And then I also got to work with like Texas A&M, which is the biggest campus ministry in the US. So I just got a peek into everything and I just learned so much and I'm so grateful for it. But I also felt like, yeah, they were a consulting firm. So I felt like we were helping other people we were telling them how to fundraise. And I felt like I wanted to get in the game myself and kind of see if I could really move the needle. And anyway, so that led me to Catholic Terps. I knew Father Conrad from my time in Focus, who's a chaplain at University of Maryland. And also my husband is a Catholic Terp. So I reached out to them and I said, if you have any opportunities, let me know. I'm interested in kind of getting in the game myself. And he reached out to me and yeah, there was an opening that came up right after that. And yeah, I've been there for almost 2 years now. It's been great.
That is amazing. I resonate with your story a lot because I got into development. It was one of those right person at the right moment, at the right time for the right organization. So that's pretty cool. Shout out to Andrew Robinson at Petrus. Andrew, one day we're going to have you on the show so we can tell a little bit of your story. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned something that's really important. I think this is true for every nonprofit. The key, and we talk about this all the time in the way that when we work with clients and in the way that we talk about development, is that beliefs plus relationships equals funds. That's the formula that we center everything around, right? Fundraising and development really is simple. It's super easy. I'm not saying that it doesn't get difficult. It does. But at its core, it's one person making one ask of somebody. And here's the kicker. You mentioned something that I'm getting to. Our job is never for the donor to say yes. And like I say that and people are like, what? No, we want to raise money. We do. But our job truly is to invite the donor or invite the prospect to a deeper commitment into the mission. That's all the job is. Whether or not they say yes, that's between them and God, their family, their spouse, whatever the case might be. But our job is to invite. The more genuine we are in our invitation, the more we believe in the mission that we're trying to raise funds for, the more likely that they're going to say yes, right? Because, with your beliefs goes that relationship. And people like genuine people. People give to people. I say that all the time, and that's going to give to funds, which is, it's the key. And I think you nailed it in your story. One of the things that happens, though, I think you told your story well, is that many ministries struggle to tell their story in a compelling way. So tell us a little bit, before we keep going, maybe share with us what a recent very strong and powerful testimony from a student whose life was transformed through the mission at Catholic Terps.
Yeah, so actually, we recently had a student who kind of stumbled across the Catholic Student Center because she was in the marching band, and there was a marching band Bible study that would meet on the field. And it was very niche, but it was awesome. And so she found that, and then I think some people in that Bible study were from Catholic Terps and invited her to adoration, and then she had a deep, deep encounter in adoration with the Lord, and really went from not knowing God, not really having any sort of religion or faith direction in her life, to like really having a deep, deep encounter with him and really accepting him in her heart. And then, yeah, just had an amazing conversion that I feel like so many people saw and still impacts students now. They still talk about her. And she
Yes.
graduated a few years ago, and she is a missionary right now at Focus. So
Get out.
she's just amazing. And then we had this is an older story, but I love it though. There was a student who got busted for weed. He needed to make up or do some service hours in order to not get in trouble from the university. So he came to Catholic Terps and talked to the chaplain that was there at the time and said, like, "Hey, I need some service hours." And the chaplain was like, "All right, well, you can come to for your hours, you can come to daily mass, Bible study, and meet with me for spiritual direction." And he was like, "Okay." Long story
Thank you,
short, he's
chaplain.
now a priest. Yeah, he's a priest now. Yeah. So that really had like a overwhelming impact on his life. And I love that story for getting in trouble to becoming a priest, and just the trajectory and just how much God
That,
works in
yeah,
your life is just amazing.
that's amazing. So
Yeah.
let's go back a little bit. The precursor to that question is every nonprofit, every ministry has stories like that. And, the struggle is communicating that story well to your prospects or to your donors in a compelling manner. You've seen it, Joelle, firsthand. Obviously, you share a couple of stories with us. How do you then share that with potential donors? How do you frame the conversation so that they see themselves in the story?
Yeah, I think one thing, well, first I try and kind of get some background info on the donor to see, do they care about vocations? Do they care
Yes.
about more about like service or like social, like kind of social ministries? Do they care about, yeah, Bible studies, or yeah, maybe women religious? It kind of, there's a wide variety of people, and we have a wide spectrum of kind of ministries that we do. So, or that are within our mission. So I try and find out like what is impactful to them. And then I find the right story. So there's so many stories. Many students, we have 31 Catholic Terps priests, 4 Catholic bishops, 15 Catholic Terps seminarians right now. So if I'm talking to someone who cares about vocations, and I'm pushing that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm saying like, listen, like coming to Catholic Terps and getting involved in the center is a before and after moment,
Yes.
and really saying like people, and I also try to appeal to themselves at college. And I feel like, I'm sure Orlando, maybe you could also relate with this, but just like college, it really does like set the trajectory for your life in ways that you don't realize. And when people meet their spouses at Catholic Terps, or they find their vocation, or have just that encounter with God, something I also say is just like, I see a lot of our job as preparing these young men and women to have lifelong holy vocations. So whether that's lifelong marriages that are holy and healthy, or of course religious ones. So that's kind of where I really try and find the right story that fits the donor's interests. Of course, if it fits with our interests. So if
Yes.
they
No,
have,
that's it.
yeah, if they have more of an interest in, yeah, like the missionaries of charity, then I would point them in that direction. But
So, yeah, no, you mentioned a couple of things that really is the way to framework how to connect with your donors, right? So first of all, you always, when starting a relationship or picking a relationship with from somebody else, right? Because this happens often. I guess people move away or they go up in the ministry to do something else. Connecting with a donor and asking, why is it that you give to us? Right? What is it about our mission that interests you the most? The mission does not change in itself, but the mission has different aspects in which it gets carried out, right? So to your point, and I wrote it down and then you said it, tailoring the approach of the conversation, of the relationship, and eventually the ask to what matters to them is the key to creating those genuine relationship and lasting, and lasting funds. Because again, if to your point, if they care about service work or whatever the case might be, or people get into sacraments, vocations are great, but why would you want to bring that up when that's their main thing? And then vice versa. That's just like one example. And I guess to your point too, if you develop a relationship with a donor, this is again when I go into particularly in the nonprofit world, we have this mindset of scarcity, right? Like, for-profit billionaires, nonprofits poor. That doesn't have to be the case. As a matter of fact, you're doing yourself a disservice with having that mindset. But in switching gears, if you were to have an abundance mindset where you go, this donor, I know them well. And this donor, I know, this to your point you said earlier, they're really interested in missionaries of charity. They're really interested in actually the endowment at the school, let alone what we do at Catholic Terps, right? You know what? I think I want to serve them well by guiding them in that direction. That does two things. One, it solidifies in the donor's mind that you actually know them, that you care for them, that you care about them, and they're just not an ATM, right? Two, the byproduct of that is you just get a donation for life every year, if not an increased gift every time, because you care for them so much that you guide them into a place that matters to them, which is really awesome, which that's a great segue into the nitty-gritty of the conversation. So tell us a little bit of how Catholic Terps is funded right now. Is it diocesan support? Is it alumni, donors? Is it events? Tell us a little bit of your annual campaign and how that works.
Yeah, so because we're technically the ministry of the Archdiocese of Washington, they pay for the salaries of myself, Father Conrad, and our 2 campus ministers, and that's it. And then we fundraise everything else. So physical plant, the operating expenses, the programmatic expenses. We have some contractors that we work with. And then right now we're fundraising for a pretty big capital campaign for a big renovation project. So everything else is fundraised. And honestly, the majority of our funding comes from alumni. And it's just, that's like so important to us. And yeah, so that's kind of where our funding comes from. But otherwise, we also have some community members that are faithful donors. We have parents that we reach out to as donors and who are also very excited about the mission, some faculty, a lot of clergy as well. So yeah, it's a big mix, but I would say the majority is absolutely our alumni.
So tell us a little bit then of what currently is working well in terms of donor engagement, or what areas of your fundraising and development is working quite well.
Yeah, so I think our alumni, I think they're really bought in, and it's been awesome. I kind of mentioned that we're doing a capital campaign right now. We kind of revived it this last year. That process has been a lot of reaching out to alumni who maybe have not been asked yet, alumni who give monthly, even students. I've worked with other schools who really struggle to have a good culture of tithing in their organization. I'm honestly shocked how generous our students are. We try and really engage them early. Like, we're not afraid to ask them to even, a lot of our students give like $2 a month or a week or whatever they can do. So we start that early, and then we, kind of follow them and engage them through graduation and then as alumni. And in this process of meeting with alumni for the capital campaign and kind of doing the extra fundraising that's on top of our fund, it's been awesome just to meet with them. And we keep saying, like, we really believe that this project will be finished by the people who love the Catholic Student Center the most. I think Father Conrad and I have been just so overwhelmed with gratitude for alumni, for their generosity in prayers and in finances and in wanting to stay connected, wanting to help our students out. We're so grateful for that. I think that's one thing that's been going really well. It shows in different ways. It shows in our annual appeal. It shows in our campaign. It shows in our I Give Catholic mini giving day on Giving Tuesday.
Yes.
It shows in our alumni retreat. So there's lots of different things, lots of different ways that they're involved in and donate. And as we've seen that culture like really thrive, I think we've seen our finances do better as well.
Amen. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit then. Let me ask you this question. What do you wish more donors understood about supporting campus ministry? Because like you mentioned something that was unique, right? Like you're a minister of a ministry. And a lot of campus ministries throughout the country are in a similar position. Some of them are just straight up funded by the archdiocese, where they're not a ministry under it or an organization under, they're just part of it. So if you would pinpoint like something that you wish more people understood about it, what would that be?
I think people wrongly assume that we are completely funded by the diocese. The diocese does have a successful annual appeal, and that goes towards our salary. So we're thankful for that. But I wish people knew that we were the premier school in Maryland. We're the biggest school. The most kids come to Maryland, and they have again, like I said, this is a before and after moment. And this is the future of the church. This is the future of our vocation. And we do rely on fundraising. We rely on parents of students, of alumni, to give what they feel they can give. And so right now, especially through this campaign, we're trying to secure the long-term future of Catholic Terps. And like I said, it's had a traumatic impact. We have 20 focus missionaries who are Catholic Terps alum that in the last few years, not total, but in the last few years, 31 Catholic priests, 4 Catholic Terps bishops. So our alumni network is very expansive, and we've had a lot of amazing results. So I would just say, I wish people knew that we fundraise pretty much all of our costs and that we're growing really rapidly. So I want to invite people into this mission.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned something that's really important that a lot of organizations struggle with, particularly, and this episode happens to be focused on campus ministry, which is a faith-based organization here at the University of Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly when they're faith-based, they struggle with a couple of things that you are doing a great job at, which is recurring donations and donor retention. The main reason as to why that struggle takes place, and if you're a listener and you find yourself in this position, I hope that you paid attention to what Joelle said, because the main reason that happens is that they don't have a donor acquisition strategy already in place. And the easiest way to start acquiring donors, and the warmest people who are more likely going to be your donors, are the beneficiaries of your mission. Like in your case, it's students who then become alumni, right? I don't know, and I'm just making this up. People struggling with addiction, right? Once they've recovered, they know that this was good for them. And it could be good for other people. You know, if you invite them, they're likely going to give to you, right? Because they had a good experience. Moms struggling with getting pregnant, right? Like that hospital, after a couple of successful births, it would be smart for their maternity ward to reach out to them, right? And invite them into the mission. Not to take advantage of somebody's emotional situation, but to actually invite them to say, what happened to you, it's currently happening right now, and we need your support so that it can continue to happen for years to come, right? That little bit of like a shift in thinking and inviting those who benefited from your mission is so important. And once you start getting donors year after year, and which is the blessing is you get new freshmen every year, you get graduate seniors every year, which is really good. So not everything is, rose-colored, I'm sure. So let's talk about some of the challenges that you're currently facing. What challenges is your development team facing right now at Catholic Terps? Tell us at least one that we can talk about.
Yeah. So I think, like I mentioned, we're doing this campaign. It started back in 2019, 2020. A lot of money was raised right after the feasibility study during that time. And then it all got paused because of COVID and the permitting issues in the county that we're in. So it got paused for a few years. And then construction couldn't start until just this last year. Usually feasibility studies lead into successful campaigns, but this one has been a little tougher because we're kind of trying to revive it, and it's just not on the forefront of people's minds that much, I would say, or it hasn't been. And so one big thing that we're really trying to do is we've been meeting with lots of the low-hanging fruit, I would say, of people, like I said, who love us the most, and we're grateful for that. But we also know some affluent Catholics in the DC area who we believe have an interest in vocations. have an interest in the University of Maryland, have an interest in our mission, would have an interest in our mission. But because they're busy, we've been trying to get some bigger donations, some major gifts, and we've been having trouble getting in the door. We've had a lot of luck with people who are close to the donors that we want to get in front of. We've talked to them. They feel passionate about the mission. We're having kind of a little bit of trouble getting them to introduce us to that. They say, yeah, we'll do it. But then to actually follow through has been, we're having trouble getting in front of the big people that we want to for major
Yes. So there's a couple of things that are coming up to mind in my head. And again, if you happen to be in a nonprofit that's currently facing a similar situation, this is also going to be for you. So when doing capital campaigns, I think that you're right. I think that it was outside of the scope of things to assume or expect a global pandemic to take place. And that's going to take momentum, especially for things that are like an actual brick and mortar building, 100%, because there are so many other things that come to the forefront that it gets pushed back up. One of the things that's coming up to mind is almost like, and I would be interested to get your thoughts here, reintroducing the campaign, like a rebirth, as though this was a brand new campaign. Like the previous campaign was good, and you can call this, in the grand scheme of things, that was phase one or pre-push, new push or whatever, right? And taking the things that you found during the feasibility study and then bringing it back up as though this was a brand new thing. Hey, we're doing something new again. And You can even call it that, doing the something new capital campaign. Because what we were trying to do didn't work. And that's the truth, right? Mm-hmm. What we try to do, because of so many things, didn't end up happening. So this is a brand new thing. So always starting with something new, that's going to catch their attention from the get-go. Because you mentioned something, it's hard to keep it at the forefront. This has been 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
That's a long capital campaign. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if you start something brand new and say, okay, we're done with that. This is the new thing that we're doing. And part of that is the finishing of this structure, right? That's one thing that I would bring to mind, right? Mm-hmm. And when it's something that's new, it's something that's cool, something that's shiny, something that's real, because there's 3 things I'm going to say, that then allows them to go, okay, like if I didn't introduce you to somebody before, so like there's always the ask, right? So I always tell people all the time, we want to honor our donors by asking every single time we meet with them, especially face-to-face. 90% of the time, perhaps even 95% of the time, the ask is monetary. But there's that small percentage where there's 5 to 10% that the ask is something else. But there's always a specific ask every time you meet with them. So to your point, the ask could be, and I know that they would know certain people, right? But maybe instead of assuming it's on the spot, you can put them on the spot instead and invite them even deeper into the mission by asking, would you consider introducing me? We need 10 current donors to introduce us to 2 to 3 people within the network that can have a major impact in this new campaign that we're doing. That's going to allow us to raise major dollars from 20 to 30 new people that otherwise would not have heard of what we're trying to do. And it'll give them a greater impact into what Catholic Terps is trying to do as a whole. Would you consider being one of those persons? And if so, are there people right now that you think you can make an introduction to? This is not unlike asking them for money on the spot, but you're asking for a commitment on the spot of people that they can bring you to, right? And then third, and this is something that you and I talked about before, let's go back to the beliefs. This unshakable belief that that Father knows, that the whole team knows that the building is going to get built, right? And that the campaign is going to be finished. And coming into that ask with such confidence that you're pretty much saying, without saying, that thing is going to get built, whether you give or not. I'm just giving you a chance, a very limited amount of, a very limited chance, a very small chance that you're part of this cool thing that we're trying to do. It's a better thing that we thought that we're going to do before. And we know that this is going to happen. Why? Because we believe in the mission so much that it's just going to take care of itself, right? So again, reframing the conversation into something new, asking them on the spot for specific things, in this case, introductions to specific people, and not let them walk away without some sort of a commitment in a nice way. And then having that belief and that confidence that it's going to happen, it'll likely increase your chances of continuing to overcome that challenge.
I think it's great. I think one thing that we've been really honing in on recently is just trying to be as specific as possible with our asks. Even if it's like we're asking them for an introduction, we're saying, do you know this person? And when can we get in front of them with you?
Yes.
And will you meet with us together?
I love
So that's what's been coming up. It's just like, just that further confirmation that we need to just continue to be very specific and intentional with what we're bringing to the donor and the connector.
Yeah, no, my gosh, I love this so much. This has been so great because I think I always like to leave the listener with like the 3 action items that they can take away from these episodes. And the 3 that are popping up with me is obviously, donor acquisition, going after people who are beneficiaries of your mission. And going after is the wrong term, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Cultivating those relationships and because you cared for them when they were part of the mission, receiving the efforts of your mission. So like you want to continue to care for them by cultivating that relationship for an eventual ask. And you do that by inviting them, because that's our job. Our job is to invite prospects and donors into a deeper commitment to the mission. And when you do that invitation, when you make that ask, this is the 3rd thing, be specific and clear and allow them to digest on the spot, right? And let them think right there, hey, is this something? Because commitment matters and, your word matters. So if they give you their word right then and then, or a commitment right then and then, perhaps even a gift or another way to raise funds right then on the spot, it's always really good.
Yeah.
Joelle, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This was like really, really awesome. How can listeners support Catholic Terps? Where can they find you?
Yeah, CatholicTerps.org is our website. We have our Jubilee year this year. So we're one of the parishes in the diocese that you can come and get a plenary indulgence by visiting Catholic Terps and College Park. And we also have our Maryland Day Pig Roast at the end of April, where we'll be doing the dedication of the first phase of our construction. CatholicTerps.org, you can find all the information.
A pig roast?
Yes, a pig roast. Yeah.
That is, you may just get me there to gift. Again, CatholicTerps.org. If you're interested in finding out more or even inclined to give, visit CatholicTerps.org. You know what they're doing. You know about the capital campaign. At the very least, I want to encourage you to spread the word. Now, if you are leading a ministry or a nonprofit and you want to build a stronger donor strategy, I want to humbly ask you to reach out to us and connect with us. There's going to be a link at the very bottom in the description of this episode. But really quick, you can always go to MRP DonorDev, DONORDEV.com. Our Calendly is right there at the very bottom. You can just click there and schedule a free strategy call with us. I'd love to get to know you and to meet you in person and help you create what's best for you and your mission. Thank you very much, Joelle. Again, you're amazing. Thank you to all the listeners. And remember to continue to keep your donors at the center of everything you do. Take care. God bless.
1,